So here we've got the Hoka Rincon 2, Hoka's line of super cushioned, lightweight trainers have become very popular. This is a little bit lighter than something like their flagship shoe, the Clifton. So when you think Hoka, you're gonna get a lot of cushion in a lightweight package. The Rincon really seems to deliver that exact feel. Some Hokas definitely get a little too chunky, a little bit too bulky, whereas the Rincon, being their slimmer, sleeker option, for me, I found it to be a great shoe. Cushioned, long runs, everything like that in this, but still able to run quicker, able to feel kind of fast and responsive and get that pop off the ground. So we'll take a look at some of the details here. This is the Hoka Rincon 2. Actually had two pairs of these that I ran in. This one in kind of this yellow colorway. Also had it in blue. Pretty stylish shoe. I think it looks a lot better than some of the other Hoka options, which just get so thick. If you think like Hoka Bondi, even the Clifton can look chunky at times, whereas the Rincon, just being lighter weight, naturally it's a little smaller, little sleeker, and therefore just looks a little better as well, if I'm being honest. So Hoka Rincon 2, interesting thing is that they're just about to release, or have released very recently, at least for pre-sale and that sort of thing, the Hoka Rincon 3. So it's a great time to take a look at this and kind of think about this shoe, and if you want to give the Rincon 3 a go as well. So starting with the upper, on this particular model, the 2, they really emphasized making the upper more breathable. So you get a mesh feel there. I will say this upper is pretty durable. It's maybe a little bit more solid, less holes or open space like some mesh uppers could have, but breathable. So I think it really kind of finds the right balance there. Breathable mesh upper, but with good durability there. And then if you move to the midsole, obviously with Hoka, you're gonna get this thicker stack height, thicker midsole. This shoe has a 5mm heel to toe drop. So that comes in relatively low. Standard issue running shoes are probably closer to 8mm heel to toe drop. The 5 gets you in a little bit more of a natural position, but with many of the Hokas, that's on a pretty thick stack height. And then moving to the outer, these, probably the outsole is my least favorite thing about these shoes. The exposed foam for much of the outsole definitely wears very quickly. So you can see here, Hoka obviously is trying to provide rubber outsole material on some of the hot spots. In theory, should be like your landing zone and toe off areas. But for me, I tend to be a midfoot striker. So I'm landing here a lot. You can see how quickly and how significantly this portion of the shoe wore down. And then moving more towards the toe off, I got a ton of wear right through here on these 2 pads that were just exposed foam. This is definitely a pet peeve of mine. I really wish and prefer my running shoes to have a more complete rubber outsole. If they could have given me this in those last couple areas, I think it would be perfect. In the Hoka Rincon 2, they did not do that. However, as I look forward to the Rincon 3, basically the big change on the Rincon 3, similar upper, similar, exactly the same last, honestly. Still gonna be a 5mm heel drop, still gonna be about 7.5 ounces for a men's size 9. The only real changes are gonna be a smaller heel loop, which I don't see any reason why the heel loop needs to be this big in the first place. Most shoes don't have this, obviously. It's kind of a unique feature. Didn't add or detract from the shoe in any way in my experience. I don't know if that's meant for when you're lacing them on and you can pull your foot in. That's not really too important for me. Or maybe some people like to use a carabiner and hook these on the back of their gear bag, keep them out of the bag itself so that your stinky shoes don't smell up your other stuff. Whatever this function is meant to be, on the Hoka One Rincon 3, you are gonna see that smaller, a little bit sleeker, almost like just a single elastic band there at the top, sort of like a hair tie almost. So that's the only change on the upper, maybe the tongue being a little bit lighter, but it's already pretty good. This shoe is definitely a lightweight option. Really don't notice it on the foot. That's always one of my standards I look for. You know, does the shoe just kind of disappear when you're out running, getting the ride from it? You shouldn't really notice a whole lot about your footwear. And I feel like this shoe accomplished that. The other major change, or the only other change really on the Hoka Rincon 3 update, is actually exactly what I would hope them to update. They are adding a little bit more rubber outsole. It's gonna be right here and right here. So you'll basically have the whole front half of the shoe with rubber outsole. In the back, you're still gonna have the backmost heel rubber, but there's going to be a third pod of rubber outsole kind of right in here along that lateral edge outside of the shoe, sort of when you land, neutral runners who land on the outside of their foot and then roll towards the midfoot. That's going to be a better experience in terms of durability. Overall impressions of this shoe: I love the ride. It is smooth, it is quick, it feels very natural. I think for those who have had negative experiences with Hoka, a lot of the feedback tends to be how bulky they are. A lot of people love Hokas across the board, and that's great, but I know some runners who just feel like it's too much shoe. Well, I would encourage you to give the Rincon a try, because it is definitely more similar to traditional other brands compared to something like the Clifton or especially the Bondi. So if you're looking to give Hoka another go, or maybe trying to step from another brand into Hoka for the first time, I think the Rincon is a pretty natural option for you. It is lightweight. You can do some up-tempo work in this, definitely a lot of progression runs, tempos, fartlecs, that type of stuff. Wouldn't really use it for hard interval training, but definitely has the ability to go long. You can long run in this shoe. I did many times, and I actually found it to be a shoe I really gravitated towards. If I would have 3 or 4 active shoes in my lineup, there were so many days where I'm picking a shoe to head out and I just want to be in my Hoka Rincon. Feels great on the long run, cushioned enough, but yet you feel like you can run a good pace without extra effort, and responsive enough to go a little quicker. The downside was just the durability. Didn't feel like I got as much mileage out of these as I would the Clifton or other standard shoes, other options that I've run in. Probably only got about 450 miles out of these, and that was pushing it. This wear probably about 200 miles in, I was starting to feel worried, but I kept running on it, even though some of the cushion, or some of the foam I should say, started to wear. It didn't ruin the feel or the experience, so kept going with it. 450 miles, was hoping for a bit more, but we'll also see those Rincon 3 updates probably improve the durability by adding those rubber outsoles. Give it a try, see what you think. Those are my thoughts.